Hello and welcome back to the Let's Talk Baseball podcast. I am your host, Michael Herrera, joined by my good friend Jacob Payne. How you doing, my man? How you been? How's that treating you?
Doing well, doing well. Getting even closer to baseball season. We got pitchers and catchers reporting very soon, so that's gonna be exciting.
Yeah,
Um, I'm doing well, getting ready for some baseball.
yeah. Uh, a quote that came out, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but it kind of ties in what we're going with is the Angels. They've made a lot of moves this offseason to me. A very better team. In a division where you got the Astros, you got the Mariners making moves, you even got the Rangers making moves. Their rotation is looking very, very, very nice. But then you have this decision of Artie Moreno not selling the team, which kind of changes the entire perspective of the offseason of whether they won or lost. And it's going to be interesting. And I know that today that Ohtani was not happy about not winning the MVP. I mean, fair enough. I mean, when you're putting up a below 3 ERA, over 21 homers, I mean, that's, I mean, what you can do. But Aaron Judge went out and had, I don't know, one of the best free agent seasons of all time. Other than that, Sohei should have won it. But what are your opinions on Moreno's decision to stay in LA or Anaheim?
Well, first off, I think the Angels fan base, I think everybody loses with the fact that Artie Moreno's not selling the team. I think it's been clear that there are some rifts within the team, whether it be at a managerial level, at a player level. There's something not going right in this equation. They've changed out players, they've changed out coaches. It's not working. It's clearly not working. And so at some point, you have to get some new blood in. And I don't think it helped with all the controversies and all um the backwoods deals that Artie Moreno and his team were making with the I want to say with the mayor of Anaheim or the governor of Anaheim. Um you know it's a bad look, man. It's a bad rap, and that's not what the Angels fan base, that's not what the Angels team needs. So to see that Artie Moreno was not willing to sell the team, I'm sure that's disheartening for the entire fan base. Knowing that that's not going to change. That being said, the moves this offseason were interesting to say the least. Um, Obviously, we've seen the Angels swing big before, and we've also seen them strike out. Um, the moves, I mean, I like some of these moves with Tyler Anderson. Solid arm to add to the rotation. He's going to be, at least hopefully, he should be one of the top arms within their system. You got Reed Detmers, you've got Tyler Anderson now, you've got Shohei Ohtani. You assume those three guys are healthy. Those are going to be three big arms in your rotation. The addition of Brandon Drury, I thought was very interesting. I think it adds the defensive talent that they need. Um, and it's another bat. It's another right-handed bat, contact bat, I would say. Um, so that's definitely an interesting addition. Brett Phillips,
Love that
baseball's
guy. Love that guy.
baseball's lovable character. He's that guy who's going to bring the energy, right? You figure he's going to come out here. Um, I hope to see him starting, but I can understand if he's not going to be a starter. Even if he is a bench player, he's a lovable character, and I'm sure the Angels fan base will absolutely adore um, Brett Phillips when he gets going with the team. And then Hunter Renfroe. Um, I would say an interesting move. Because we haven't seen Hunter Renfroe's top ability. I don't think. I think there's a lot of potential there with Hunter. Um, and I just don't think baseball's seeing the best of Hunter Renfroe. So if the Angels can bring that out of him, that's a huge addition. But if not, that's going to be a tough weight, uh, dragging him down on that bench.
I agree. Hunter Renfrow has been a stud, but never really has gotten that full, even chance to play full time, really since 2020 when he was with the Rays and with the Red Sox in 2021 and 2022. Of course, last year had a career year, but really those 3 years were his only full time getting the starting jobs, and he kind of proved that. But I think, especially now with the shit being gone, and I think like you said, his potential is still there, and there's still more to be unlocked, and I'm excited to see that from him and the Angels with all their moves, like we said. It's just it's crazy to think how, like you said, Tyler Anderson was one of the best pitchers last year. Could have had an argument to win the Cy Young if Sandy Alcantara didn't just come in and do what he did. But it's crazy how on Fangraphs it says he is slated for a 4+ ERA, which is could be the Angels' effect of just being the Angels, could be just any effect of just not being on it. And it's if you look at past moves of like Rendon, his injury, that's gonna be always a question. They have him slated for I think 130, 150 plus games, which is awesome. I think that's like more than he's played total as an Angel before. And if you can get a full year of him, that's just gonna help you a lot. I think that's what's kind of been missing from kind of a couple of these teams is that energy. Brett Phillips brings that, and having these guys healthy. Like in my opinion, with all their moves, I totally saw Logan O'Hoppe. I love you. You're gonna get time. You're gonna be the future catcher. But put Taylor Ward at catcher, man. Get your guys in this lineup because their bench right now is David Fletcher, Gio Urshela, uh, Livana Soto, and Andrew Velasquez. And the two like those are some guys who can go out and perform. Gio Urshela had a really quiet, great season last year. Like I would say it's a really quiet season. I'm not saying he's putting up anything special, but he would put up a nice, solid season. And these are guys who can do that. But it's just the Angels' effect and how they run their organization, and it's not the best. And of course, the big question mark around this Moreno decision is the Ohtani part of it all, and if he's gonna stay or not. And I've been saying it, Jacob. I've been talking to you about it, but they need to be 500 by the trade deadline, or else he's gone, or he's traded, whatever. Like even as like a owner or a manager, if you don't take that opportunity when you're below 500 to trade Ohtani, even if you don't want to, that's just kind of bad on you because this is one of, if not the best player in baseball that you could be getting such a package for the future. Such a package. If you could trade to the Mets for Brett Beatty, Francisco Alvarez, maybe even the Dodgers, Diego Cartaya, maybe a Bobby Miller type. And they need to get there. I'm rooting for them because one, I've always wanted to see an LA World Series, but it's just kind of like I don't want to be rude, but it's kind of just sad to see two of the great superstars in baseball just not have any chances to shine. And I hope that these additions can do that for them. But I mean, what can we really expect from what we've seen in the past? How can we really have high expectations for them this year?
Yeah, I mean, a lot to unpack, right? For starters, we've seen the Angels put up some sick rosters, going into the season, high hopes. Man, maybe this is the difference. Maybe this is the roster who can break the ice. And then they start off well. They start off well. They start off, 5, 10 games above 500. They're looking good. They've got that honeymoon period of the beginning of the season, and then splat, they hit the ground face first, and never recover. We've seen it time and time and time again, and that's where it's like there's something not working, and you've tried changing the players and you've tried changing the coaches, and it's just it's not working. Something at a very, very core level to this Angels team is just not clicking. And that is unfortunate to see. Obviously, like you said, we would like to see the Angels perform at a high level. We want to see them be competitive in a division that up until this year hasn't been quite competitive. If you look at it, we've got the Astros, the Mariners, the Rangers, Angels, and the Athletics. First of all, the Athletics, a non-starter. a team that we won't be talking about until they move to Las Vegas, which hopefully is sooner, rather sooner than
Yeah.
later. That'll be great for baseball. It'll be great for the city of Las Vegas to get another sports team in there. More events going on in there. It's a great hub to be around right now. Um, but right now the Athletics franchise, it's something it's not even worth talking about. They've got a lot of young talent. It's too damn bad because nobody wants to buy a ticket to see their games. And it's not like the owners of the team really care to do anything with the team anyway. So there's that. Then you got the Rangers, who for a while have been non-competitive. But of late, going into last year, I actually thought they were going to be quite competitive with the additions that they made, and then they kind of did nothing. Um, and I don't mean like completely bottomed out, but just weren't
Yeah.
special. They weren't that team that you saw in the headlines every week. Um, but that being said, this year they've made even more additions, and I mean doubled down on their "we're going for it all." And I mean, their starting rotation looks sick, man. Andrew Heaney, Jacob DeGrom, Nathaniel Evaldi, not to mention Martin Perez. Man, this is gonna be something. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, they have to stay healthy, right? These arms, four of these arms are very hit or miss. I mean, I'm looking at Jacob DeGrom, Nathaniel Evaldi, Andrew Heaney.
Dude.
Those guys are glass cannons.
All were
They
injured for about half of the season last year.
which I mean, hey, look, if you're the Rangers and you see these guys and you say, "Hey, I know they're injured, but I know how we can go about attacking this problem and keeping them healthy, and they can do it successfully," they will have arguably the best rotation in baseball. I mean, as looking at this, your fourth arm is either, and honestly, it's almost quite a toss up. It's either Andrew Heaney or Martin Perez as your fourth arm. That's
Oh,
that is a sick
that's
rotation. So, assuming they can stay healthy and put up the numbers that we know they can, that's going to be a devastating rotation. Not to mention the bats that they have in that lineup. I mean, granted, they haven't really taken off yet, but with the Seager and Simeon middle infield, they'll click.
yeah.
They'll click.
Nate
It
Lowe had
might
an
it'll
amazing
take some
year.
time. It'll take some time, but they will click. Um, so the Rangers are going to be an interesting team to watch this year, and I really think at the height, I think if we get everything we want, we will see a very competitive division between the Astros, Mariners, and Rangers. Now, you might say I'm swinging a little big here, and I might be. But with the way these teams have performed, especially the Mariners, they looked great last season and they've only gotten better. Um, it'll be interesting, and I would really really like to see a more competitive division for the AL West. If we can see two very competitive divisions for the West, I think that's exciting for baseball in general. Um, so the Angels, I mean, like I said, for a while now, they've been nothing to really talk about. They've been a franchise that continually tries to get better and goes absolutely nowhere with it. And I mean absolutely nowhere. You talk about Mike Trout spending the greater part of his MLB career on a team that never will make the playoffs. It's frustrating as a baseball fan to know that arguably the best baseball player of our generation, aside from Shohei Ohtani, which is kind of the new next greatest thing, is never going to make playoffs. I mean, realistically, it doesn't feel like I keep thinking, what can the Angels do to make the playoffs? And it just keeps coming back to they have to change their leadership. They have to change ownership. That's where it all starts. It all trickles down from there. Um, I mean, year after year, you've tried fixing the coaching staff, you've tried fixing the pitching staff, you've tried fixing the bats, the defense. None of it works. None of it works. Even when they have a great pitching staff, their bullpen fails or their bats fail. I mean, it's not clicking. So, um, I'd like to see the Angels change ownership. I know it's not going to happen. And for that reason, I don't think they're going to make playoffs anytime soon, and I don't think they have a chance at keeping Shohei Ohtani. Um, you got to let him go. You know, uh, as as owners, you have to respect the fact when you have such a generational talent, if you're not going to be making the necessary changes to make playoffs, I mean, you got to get rid of him. You got to dump him off. And now it's now or never for the Angels because, like you said, if they're not 500 at the trade deadline, um, Shohei's got to go. He has got to go, and he's got to go for one of the biggest trade packages we've ever seen, because he's a generational talent. He is the best baseball player in the MLB right now, and I think there's no questions asked about that. There's better hitters, there's better pitchers, but as a baseball player, he is the best. No questions asked. And so, um, they should trade him away. Realistically, unless there's some sort of miraculous the
Magic
Angels
that
finally
happens.
perform, yeah, it's not worth it. And like I said, if they're not making playoffs, Shohei's not staying. He wants to win. That kid just wants to win. He's got that drive. Honestly, I think he'll sign with a winning team for pennies if it means he gets to win. Um, so you better be prepared to sell him away, but be prepared to build up your system, because what they could get for him can start off any team for the next few years and set them up very well. So we'll see. Obviously, we'll see come the trade deadline. I'm very excited for this year's trade deadline. It's gonna be it's gonna be
Yeah,
something,
it's gonna be.
and obviously all eyes are gonna be where does Shohei Ohtani end up, because let's face it, I'm telling you, it's like a 95% chance the Angels are going to be under 500 and they're going to have to ditch him. It's just how the cookie crumbles. You can't hang on to a player like that if you're not going to be competitive.
I agree. I think this could obviously go down a lot of a lot of different ways, but two situations that come to mind from last year's trade deadline when we're talking about Shohei Ohtani is obviously got to mention Juan Soto. Some record-breaking contract extension. He said nah. He said not even kind of just five. I think the last one was like 515 for 14 years. Whoa! And now he's on the Padres, and I don't want to get into that right now. But obviously ended up getting traded to the Padres, and there's that. Another kind of situation that reminds me of this is surprisingly the Twins, because they were 500 at the deadline and they didn't go all in. They got, I think, one pitch. I think they got Tyler Mahler, and then everything just went down. So if the Angels are good and they don't try to improve, and then the same thing goes down again, not only is it just sad for them as a team, it's just sad as in just in general because of the fact of what we've expected from this team, what we've in the past. Now this year, what Shohei needs, what Mike Trout needs, what kind of all these guys need. I know some of these guys are rentals. Hunter Renfroe, a rental guy who could be at the deadline possibly. And it's just rough to see what the Angels have been kind of put through the last few years. I mean, their 14-game losing streak last year. My friend went to the game, the no hitter, Reed Detmers no hitter, and I was like, that was our only good moment of the season. And it's like, just dude, you need these guys to shine. And there's a lot of guys who can shine. They had great years last year, career years, Drury, Renfro. They've got guys that can perform. And we've said that a lot. But up and down this lineup, It's really, really good. And you could make, and I'm not saying it's not Aaron Judge, but it's moves that are going to get you, hopefully, on paper, to 500 ball. It just depends on how the Angels effect works. And another reason I know Angel fans are mad about this, Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen has spent so much money. You don't think that any other team that potentially is not going to do anything anytime soon would take the chance at selling to have another Steve Cohen in the majors who can handle another $500 million contract for Trout and Ohtani? If that happens and they get like one of the richest guys in the world, they're not only are they signing Ohtani, I could see them going after Urias, after Flaherty, after a lot of guys. And I think that's kind of what this issue for Angels fans boils down to. This ownership, and it's rough. Moreno, of course, has had the suspicious moves with the mayor. A lot of just bad things happen with that organization, and we hope to see them shine for Ohtani, for Trout, and we'll see. We could, by the trade deadline, we could be talking about a very positive, very, hey, go get him, go re-sign Ohtani after the year, go win the World Series, Angels, or it could just be saying, well, did it again, bye Ohtani. All right, second topic is another Central team, the Cubs. And I gotta say, a lot of these teams have made interesting moves. I think that's been kind of the main definition of this offseason, interesting. But if I got one word for them this offseason, it's fun. Their team is so fun right now. And I'm just excited to see what they do. Because in another non-competitive division where you lose a guy like Yadier Molina. Granted, the Cardinals bring in Wilson Contreras, which is obviously a plus. Obviously a plus to have him there. I love the quotes from his press conference. I'm not here to replace Yachty. He's one of my idols. I'm here to get this team in the World Series. And I love that. But kind of like the Guardians, not the flashiest roster. You got guys who are gonna perform, who are gonna have good seasons. But your kind of stars are Arenado, Goldschmidt, now Contreras, and that's kind of your only like three superstars. And if you look at the Cubs, I mean, they don't got superstars, but they've got guys who can come out. I think their big superstar, obviously, move of the offseason was Dansby Swanson. 7 years, 177. That infield it's nasty. Swanson, Nico, Wisdom, and probably Hosmer. Let's say Mancini at first. I think Mancini's gonna get more playing time at first. But obviously, these central divisions, not as competitive. The Brewers have had a wonky offseason too. They've been linked with other teams, not only just for the moves that they made, but for Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, who have supposedly been on the market, Willie Adames. And it's just, if these teams are going to go out and sell, and the Cubs are bye, I think we can be talking about this team in a different light, especially after the 500 ball they played in the second half last year.
Yeah. A lot going on in the NL Central, right? Like you said, the Cardinals, obviously the favorites right now. They're the team at the top. They're the champions that if you want to take this, division, it's got to go through them. And with good reason, right? They're a well put team. They didn't need to go out this offseason and make huge moves because their team is already well put together as is. And the only move that they did need to make was getting a catcher, and they got their guy in Wilson Contreras. He is a great person to fill Yadier Molina's shoes. Obviously not perfectly, but defensively he's a great catcher. Offensively, he's not too bad. He's not too bad in terms of catchers. So, wonderful move by the Cardinals. I think if everybody stays healthy over there, they're gonna stay at the top. Partially because the next team I wanted to talk about just real briefly, the Brewers. Obviously one of baseball's weird teams for the sense that they on paper should have been the best team in the Central. for the past several years now, and doesn't always go according to plan. Um, you look at Corbin Burns and Willie Adames, and you think, well, what's that deadline gonna look like? Um, if if they're playing 500 ball or less, those two big names might be going, and they both might be going to the same place. Um, you look at a shortstop starting pitcher package. That's
As good as it can get.
yeah, yeah. That's about it's about as good of a two-piece combo you can get. So you figure if they're willing to deal, they can deal. And honestly, with the roster that they have, they don't need to wait for a long turnaround, a long rebuild season. Um, you can go one season of less than 500 ball, uh, trade away a big piece like Corbin Burns, which, by the way, I'm not so sure that the Brewers are willing to extend him because the Brewers are notorious for putting up not so big uh payrolls. But who knows? Maybe they extend him for 8 years, 7 years, big dollars. Um, but it'll be interesting. And you know what? For the sake of the Central, I would like to see them be competitive. But for the sake of an interesting trade deadline, I hope they bottom out. It'll make things interesting because I think there's several roster spots on there that will be up by the end of the season, or at least some options coming open. So it'll be interesting to see how the Brewers do this season. And then, like you were talking about, the Cubs. You know, the Cubs coming from last season, which let's be honest, they were one of those why bother talking about them teams? Because they weren't anything special. They weren't doing anything. I mean, they weren't dealing too much at the deadline. They weren't acquiring anybody cool. Um, Below 500 ball up until like you said, the second half they did start to play better. But the moves they've made this offseason, very interesting. Dansby Swanson, a solid signing. I mean, one of the top shortstops in this class. Um, he is just about as solid as you can get in terms of consistency. I think defensively and offensively, he's not the best shortstop, but he is damn well consistent. Um, Cody Bellinger, you know,
Guy.
us
My
Dodger
guy.
fans, us Dodger fans absolutely adore Cody Bellinger. First of all, he's just a funny dude. I mean, you love to hear him talk. Um, you love all the memes that come along with Cody Bellinger and how he always looks high in the dugout. Um, but defensively, incredible. I mean, I might be shooting a little high here, but I think he is the best defensive center fielder. When you take into account his speed, his athletic ability, some of the plays he's made in center field are just like pulling it out of a magician's hat.
Before you
Um,
go on real quick, I just want to make a note. Of course, a lot of people when they think of defensive center fielders, got to think of Buxton, but he's healthy for only a good portion of the season, like maybe 81, 90 games. Obviously, one of the better defensive center fielders, and like you said, you are maybe shooting a little high a bit, but even with his struggles, you can always count on that glove. I remember him making that catch in Game 2 of the NLDS last year, and I was like, okay, maybe there's something there. And he kind of started hitting, but it's also ends well.
yeah, and like you said, even when his bat is failing him, which for the past couple of years with the Dodgers, he's been really struggling, to say the least. His defensive ability never slipped. I don't think I can remember a play where I'm just thinking, man, Cody, you really misplayed that. Um, a defensive talent to say the least. And so at at bare minimum, the Cubs are making a huge defensive upgrade in terms of Cody Bellinger. And if they can unlock his talent that we know lies beneath Cody Bellinger, and if they can bring out even some semblance of his former MVP year, huge acquisition there. Very, very underrated acquisition when you think about how much talent is in Cody Bellinger. And it's frustrating that the Dodgers didn't get to keep him, but it's also understandable. It wasn't working out with the Dodgers. He never returned to his MVP form, and that's sad to see because he was one of those special guys on our team that just you love to see come up to plate. You love to see in the field. You love to see after the games getting interviewed. It's just one of those guys that you love. And I was very happy to see the reception that he got when he went over to the Cubs and did like a fan
The
meeting
fan
thing.
fest, yeah.
That was really cool to see. I'm glad that they're embracing him with open arms. And I think it's such a great move for Cody. Honestly, you think about his past few seasons, he's been struggling on the Dodgers. And to struggle on the Dodgers, you're struggling in the spotlight. You know, the Dodgers are one of those teams that, for all intents and purposes, they're very likely going to be in conversation for one of the best teams for postseason for just about any talk when you're talking about baseball. And so when you're struggling on the Dodgers, you're struggling in the spotlight. All eyes are on you. And it was very clear that this past season, that pressure was getting to him. And it's understandable. You know, he went from MVP to batting 200 with, I think it was like a 33-40% strikeout rate for a majority of the season. That's tough. That's tough, man. Um, and you're gonna go through slumps, which is why I was glad to see him stick around for another couple of years after his MVP. I think it was 2019 season, but never again could we get anything like his MVP season. And so to go to the Cubs, you think about it. If you're gonna fail somewhere, if you can fail on a team that doesn't have the spotlight on, that's a lot less pressure. That's a lot easier to manage than failing on a team like the Yankees or the Mets or the Dodgers, or the Padres. Those big name teams that if you fail, all eyes are on you. You're the scapegoat. You're the reason, right? Whereas if you go to the Cubs and you have a tough season, you have a 200 season, um, nobody's really going to talk about it. Nobody's really gonna say, "Damn, the Cubs really missed out on playoffs because of this one player." I still, mind you, they've made some great acquisitions, but I would say still on paper they are third at best in the Central. Um, and that's at best. I mean, the Pirates, we're gonna be seeing some interesting
Let's go,
things from
Bucks.
them
Let's go, Pirates.
in the next few years. Nothing to speak of with the Reds, but the Pirates might make things interesting within the next few seasons. So um, it's a comfortable place to be for Cody Bellinger because he should have no pressure on him this season. He should go out there, have fun, play some baseball, and if we get some wins, if you can put up some good stats, great. If not, oh well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, we love Cody. As a Dodger fan, I'm so excited to see him back. I got tickets to the first game back or against the Cubs. I had to. And you obviously want to see a guy like him succeed. Kind of like Shohei Ohtani, or even that's kind of crazy to say. Like, why would you want to like be kind of like ready or kind of like not ready to see them succeed because they are two of the best players in baseball, but just as a team on the Angels. And Bellingham's just a lovable guy. the Cubs are a lovable team, and they've made some moves. Again, like you said, I think the Brewers are going to take that second place spot, whether that does mean they are in a wild card spot or they are not. But I think we're going to see a major improvement from the Cubs. I think we could definitely see this team be a 500 ball at the end of the year. And I think that's good, because I think that's where you want to be, especially for where they're at right now as an organization with their fans and with what they've been doing the past few years. I thought it was going to be a while before we see them compete again. I can see them, if all goes right, even this year, we could see them making a run. It's like the Phillies. No one, they were 22 and thinking it was 29 to start the season. They were on no one's bets, those cards to go to the World Series, and they did, and they only got better. So I think if we can see these guys perform, Hosmer and Mancini kind of gonna split time for team first base DH. They're gonna have some good seasons. I really think so. Fangraphs think so. And another really kind of question mark going into the next year's offseason and the trade deadline, Ian Happ. He's been linked with the Yankees, with the Dodgers at one point. I think he'd be a great fit for the Angels, a corner outfielder. He is on the final year before free agency. And if all goes well, extend him. If all doesn't go well, same thing with the Angels and a lot of lower half teams that have made moves. Love you, but you might have to go. And that might be a story for a lot of guys he signed. These are a lot of 1 year, 2 year deals. I think the only multi-year deals they gave out were Swanson. I think they gave Boxberger a multiple year. I think they gave Tatayo the 4 year. I think they gave Mancini a 2 year with an opt out. But their Cubs, like we said, they're a lovable team. You want to see them succeed, especially after their 2016 year. What they've gone through, that fire sale, kind of no one was expecting, because they were kind of still in a spot to win. They had a good team, and you lose that trio of Baez, Rizzo, and Bryant in the same offseason, in the same trade deadline within like 2 weeks, and you're like, man, how long is it before we're gonna be competitive again? And I don't think they're gonna have to wait much longer. I think, like we said, baseball's a very interesting sport. Where if you're hot, you're hot. If you're not, you're not. And if we can see each of these guys on that roster, from Seiya to Belly to Nico to Tyone to Stroman, when they're hot, they're going. And we could easily see this team compete, especially their pitching rotation. I'm excited to see what their pitching rotation is going to do. I think Justin Steele's going to have an all-star year. I'm calling it right now. I think he's going to be their team MVP. I love the addition of Jameson Tyone. And you can make the argument, yeah, they're not the best pitchers. They're arguably all threes, if you're kind of realistically from another standpoint. But I think that they're in a good spot to be. They could be in a worse spot. You could be looking at a team that didn't get Swanson, didn't get any of these guys. And when you got and you see teams do that, even teams like the Pirates, who we're gonna talk a little bit about next week, it's happy and it's nice and it's welcoming and it's warming to the heart as a fan, and you want to see that. And we're gonna see these guys come out and compete. Like we said, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I would not be surprised to see if the Cubs are on a lot of people's postseason brackets. I think they are going to surprise a lot, like the Orioles did last year. And maybe they don't, but still, they're in a spot to make some moves in the future. All right, that is all we got for you guys today. As we've said, next week, Pirates, they've made a lot of interesting moves. Are they ready to compete? Probably not, but we'll see what they can do. Obviously, everyone loved the move of Andrew McCutchen back. We're gonna get into some Dodger talk next week. Miggy Rowe extended, Noah Syndergaard. Where are they? Can they still easily run the West? And some Stevie Cohen Mets talk. You gotta always consider them. They run in a fourth outfielder. Let's see what they can do. They're still chasing guys. I'm Michael Herrera, joined by my good friend Jacob Payne. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you.